I always have a coach.
Mm-hmm.
So like many other coaches, I have spent enormous amounts of money on coaching, on my own development, on supervision. And I think the more that we are coached, the better we become as coaches, the more we learn, and we continue to evolve. And that makes us great coaches. So I would say, if you're looking for, what's a great investment, invest in yourself as a
Mm-hmm.
coach, keep developing.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host Rexhen, and today's guest is Sarah Perugia, an executive leadership coach, keynote speaker, and host of the Whole Truth Leadership Stories podcast, a champion for women in leadership and a pioneer of whole person transformation. Sarah brings together psychology, performance coaching, and lived experience to help leaders show up with confidence, clarity, and authenticity. Through her powerful workshops, coaching, and storytelling, she empowers leaders to lead from their values, elevate their impact, and thrive under pressure. And it's a pleasure for me to have her on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you, Rexhen. What a wonderful introduction. I'm so pleased to be here.
Well, thank you for coming. And I want to know how you got started on your coaching business. What inspired you? What pushed you to become a coach? And then, to do it as a business.
Yeah, fantastic. What a great question. So, well, I need to take you back 20 years, Rexhen. It's a long time ago that I started my journey, probably even a little bit longer than that. So I started life actually as a professional actor. So anybody who's listening in the UK will recognise the National Theatre, which is one of our most famous theatres. And I was lucky enough to be working at the National Theatre as an actor, part of the company of actors. And somebody had what at that point was a brand new, brilliant idea to take the company of actors into businesses around London and see what could actors teach to leaders. And we did amazing masterclasses on presence, voice, confidence, body language, nonverbal communication, storytelling, all of these wonderful things that we now all know leaders need, but it was a pretty new idea at the time. I was completely hooked right from the beginning. I loved the work. And through that work, I started to meet leadership coaches. And I just thought, oh my God, that's a brilliant job. And so I segued from professional actor to coach. And like so many other coaches out there, Rexhen, I'm a bit of a junkie around training. So I went off and trained did lots of different coach trainings and accreditations, trained in strength training, positive psychology, all sorts of values coaching, all these wonderful things, and sort of brought together a mixture of my background and my pedigree as a professional actor and all that I know from that alongside all of those other brilliant trainings. Yeah, so that's what brought me into coaching.
Cool. That's a great story. And there's not a lot of coaches that I've interviewed that have started from an art background and then moved into coaching. There's cases that I've had that have been in comedy that have come into coaching, that there's cases that I've had that have been opera singers that have come into coaching. That is also an interesting one. It's on one of the earlier episodes that we have on the podcast.
Amazing.
So quite interesting to have that background. And just like you said, actors do have that certain skill set that could definitely be utilized in the leadership world. Right now, when you're working with leaders, is it one-to-one coaching, or do you also sometimes work with their teams? How does that look like?
Yes, great question. So I do have a specialism, which is that I coach women, and my absolute purpose and passion behind my coaching is all around building inclusive teams and inclusive organizations, and helping organizations build and strengthen their female talent pipeline so that they can build those gender equal senior teams. And so I do that in a number of different ways. I coach female leaders one-to-one, and adore that process of really getting to know those incredible, talented women on a very, very deep level. I also design and create female leaders programs for organizations to help them build that female talent pipeline. I sometimes will also work with all gender teams. So for example, next week, this is a typical example, I've been coaching a SVP, Senior Vice President of a company. She's got a 3-day offsite in Ireland and has very kindly invited me to come along and facilitate the offsite. And so that's going to be a brilliant opportunity to get to know her team, to help them build trust and cohesion, look at their vision and mission and purpose, alongside all the work we've been doing on her confidence, vision, mission, purpose, etc. So yeah, those would be probably the typical things that I would be doing, Rexhen.
And you mentioned programs for these leaders. How do these programs work? Are they designed specifically for a specific person? I can imagine maybe there has to be some customization maybe for every leader, or is there, do you see some patterns that create these programs and you just fit into a certain bucket?
Yes. So my passion is to always create something bespoke, whether it's a one-to-one leadership coaching journey, or whether it's a large corporate organization coming to me and saying, right, we really want to retain and develop, this cohort of aspiring leaders, or, mid-level leaders or senior leaders. Always do is I get to know either the individual or the cohort, the organization, and I look at what does success look like for that individual or for that cohort. What do they need in order to flourish and thrive and fulfill their potential? And I will always create something bespoke. Of course, there are always themes. You very kindly talked about my passion for whole person leadership, Rexhen, in your lovely introduction. And with all of the work that I do, I want to encourage my clients to really step back and look at everything, because I believe we can't be fantastic inspirational leaders if we're only thinking about leadership. We can only be, in my opinion, fantastic inspirational leaders if we look at everything about our lives. What does success look like for me? What kind of family member do I want to be? What do I want my life to look like? How do I want to spend my weekends? What's my passion? What's my purpose? What's my vision for my whole life? And when we work on all of that, then actually what happens is we're flourishing and thriving everywhere. And then we show up as leaders in this incredible way, because, when were we ever inspired by a leader who was tired, grumpy, overwhelmed, fed up? Never. We want our leaders, the most inspirational leaders are happy, actually. They're leading good lives. And then they give their people that they're leading permission to think about leading their best lives. And so that, those leaders are culture carriers, and that there's a ripple effect.
You bring an interesting point when you say that there has to be a holistic approach to these leaders, though you cannot separate these worlds, like the work world, the family world, and whatever passion maybe. They are all interconnected, and if you keep them separate, they eventually collide. So it does make sense that they are that way. And so right now, do you think that these leaders that you're working with, do you find them in a specific industry? Is there a specific industry or maybe demographic? We said women, but could there be more niche down group than that, or it's really not related to the industry?
It's nothing to do with the industry. It's to do with the type of organization. So, a lot of leadership coaches like me come from the corporate world. I don't. I come from a very different world, but I have been working within the corporate world for more than 20 years. So I have the benefit of seeing women in all these different organizations, all these different industries, seeing the patterns of what's working, what's not working. I hear many, many stories. Like you with your podcast, I'm listening to women tell me their stories. And so what these women have in common is that they're in large organizations. They're looking at often quite biased systems. These organizations were created by men for men. Most of the time, there's still an awful lot of, male heavy teams at the top of organizations, quite male centric cultures. And so what I'm helping those women do is navigate not only to where they want to go, but how they want to be when they get there, and therefore influencing the culture so it becomes more inclusive. So I would say those are the women that are attracted to working with me, those women who they have something standing in the way of what they want to achieve. And it might be what they want to achieve is a happier life, as well as great work success and, being on the board or whatever it is. But yeah, all different industries, all different countries. I'm very, very lucky.
I can't imagine someone that doesn't want to have a happy life. It's just like, I want to have a boring life. I want to be depressed. Yeah.
It's a very, very good point. I think sometimes people are so deep in the challenge and the day-to-day that they haven't stopped to think about, to kind of look up and go, what do I really want? And how am I going to get there? And who can help me? Because once we start asking those questions, then it all opens up, doesn't it?
And for any woman that's listening to this, any leaders out there, if they're listening, how does the engagement look like with you? Is there a certain length of the program generally that you typically work with, or is not of a certain length?
Well, yes. I think, I generally start with quite a traditional 6-month program. And I think what's very interesting is that when I first started training as a coach 20 years ago, and Rexhen, I'm going to show my age now. When I first started training as an executive coach, it was phone coaching. So we're talking pre-Skype, pre-Teams, pre-Zoom. It was either in person or it was on the phone. And that was the traditional. The traditional idea was that you coached somebody for a short amount of time and then they launched. Whereas I think actually we've become much more supportive, much more connected now. And so I always start with, if I possibly can work in person with somebody, I absolutely will. I will travel, I'll move heaven and earth to at least work with them once if I possibly can. And we work together for a few months, lots and lots of check-ins, how's it going, keep bespoking it and tailoring it to them. And then many of my clients are lovely enough to continue to work with me. That I have a client that I've been coaching now for 4 years, which is wonderful. Other clients who we've worked together maybe for a year, and they pop up and we can do a little top-up session or we can have a day together. Yeah. I do love doing intensive days. That's one of the things I've introduced this year, which is incredibly popular. I call it Spa Day for the Mind. And we shut off everything else. We take a day, we go somewhere beautiful, and we deep dive into that woman's challenges and goals, and we give her just a whole day to think about herself and nothing else. And yeah, it has an amazing impact. It's incredible what you can do in a day.
Wow. That is so powerful because no one really stops a whole day to think about themselves, their goals. Like, you never really stop. You're always like on to the next thing. And not only do you get to stop and think, but basically they get to do it with a coach, which gets to, I think, the power of a coach from, I'm not a coach myself for anyone listening, but I think the power of the coach is that it is able to unlock thoughts that you couldn't unlock on your own. So even through like a trigger question, maybe you just haven't thought about it in that way at all before, or is able to see problems that you are not able to see by yourself. because there's always that challenge of that I hear from coaches is that people feel like, oh, there's also ChatGPT, you can train ChatGPT to be a coach, but actually ChatGPT will only know what you're sharing or will only see the problems that you see. So it's just a mirror to what you're seeing. It's not really looking, it's not really reading behind those lines that you're sending. It's not really understanding the real problem behind it. So yeah, there's a big difference between AI and actual and having that human
Yeah.
interaction. It's not AIable yet, let's say.
Well, yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? I went to, I'm a speaker at Henley Business School here in the UK, and one of my colleagues did a talk on whether AI could replace us all as coaches. So, a lot of people turned up for that lecture because we were all very interested to know. And, it's, as you say, you're completely right, Rexhen, which is actually some of the biggest breakthroughs clients have with me is when I will observe, oh, when you talked about X, this is what I noticed in your body language and your voice. And when you talked about Y, your eyes lit up and you smiled and you stretched your body out. Tell me more about that. And they'll say, oh, I didn't even notice I was doing that. And it's, that nonverbal communication is giving me the opportunity to reflect back to them so that they can feel, oh, yes, actually, it's why. That's why I really want that second option. That's where I'm excited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Hopefully AI won't be able to do that for a while because I quite like my job.
Yeah, at least like I don't think it's gonna be able to do it at all. I mean, who knows? Who knows
Who
really?
knows?
I don't want to eat my words later on. So yeah, for the perspective of coaches that are listening, this question is the marketing question. Where do you find your clients, or where do clients find you in terms of like what marketing channel is working best for you right now, or is there any marketing strategy? You mentioned you
So,
have a podcast, and we mentioned that on the intro as well. But yeah,
yes.
the other things.
I have a podcast. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm also a keynote speaker. So that obviously gives me visibility and I meet lots of amazing people through events where I'm speaking. I think if I think about how the business has grown and been built, LinkedIn is really important to me. I'm very visible on LinkedIn. It's taken me a while to be visible on LinkedIn. Didn't come naturally, but that, and that's been a great experience. I love it as a place to talk really, to show up and to learn from other people and to connect in a very positive way. I think for me, the biggest engine behind my business has been recommendation and repeat business. And where that comes from is early on in my coaching journey, I noticed that when I had chemistry calls with people, there was a certain type of person who chose me and a certain type of person who I chose. And it was those women. And so I think if there's a coach listening who's on the beginning of that journey, notice who chooses you. Because if you choose the right people and you encourage the right people to choose you, everything is possible. And that person will do brilliantly in coaching. They'll love the experience. They'll love you. They'll talk about you. They'll take you into their next business. They'll recommend you to their colleagues. And that's what I believe a coaching business is so often based on because, it's very intimate, a coaching process. So people want to like you, trust you. So yeah, a lot of my business is that recommendation, word of mouth, repetition.
And
Yeah.
it's also a testament that the coaching worked well. If people are willing to recommend you other people using their name, it means that it worked very well. It's also like a test for you to know that actually you did great.
Yes.
It's amazing. And for many coaches that I interviewed, actually, it has been kind of like the source which has been reliable. It's not really predictable, but it's been reliable for coaches who have had great results, especially. And yeah, I totally agree with you. I also wanted to talk to you about your goals in the future. What are your goals for the next 1 to 3 years with your coaching business right now?
So this is an exciting thing to talk about, Rexhen. So I have a flagship female leaders program. It's a coaching program. It has lots of exercises and tools and wonderful experiences in it. But essentially, it's a coaching process. I'm not giving people the answer. I'm giving them a process where they find their own answers. And it's been running for many, many years. And I absolutely love it. And it's had a great impact. And what I want to do is I want to start offering a scalable version of that program in order to solve a problem that I see. So, Rexhen, what's been happening in the last year, 18 months, is that I am being phoned and contacted again and again and again by first line and mid-level female leaders who are not being managed well, who are not visible, who are not being stretched, who are not being invested in, and they are really languishing, they're frustrated. A lot of them are thinking of leaving their organizations. And actually, McKinsey talks about the broken rung. It's a very real thing. What I want to do is I want to help organizations fix their broken rung. Because what they say to me is, well, Sarah, come in and work with our senior leaders. We've got a lovely budget for you up here. And that's great. And I love it. Mm-hmm. And if I talk about their less senior women, they say, oh, no, we've got no budget for that. So I want to try and create something that's manageable, affordable, and scalable so that all of those incredibly talented women who are a flight risk and who have got so much to offer and who, if they leave, it costs organizations a lot of money. I want to solve the broken rung through this scalable version of my Women on a Mission program. So anybody who wants to chat to me about that, get in touch.
Cool. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that is interesting. So when it comes to these senior leaders, you mentioned that usually it's the company who will pay or will cover that, but they will not do it for the ones that are not in the elite kind of level. That is interesting. So when you're working with a leader, let's say, would this woman be part of their team or no? It would still not be at the team level. How does that look like? So, I wonder if you also work with their teams. That's why I'm asking.
Yes. So, so very often people, those kind of earlier in career women who are approaching me, and interestingly, Rexhen, those women I will always encourage them, go to the company, let's see if we can get you sponsorship, and I'll support them pitching for coaching. Quite often the answer is no, which is really interesting. So they pay for themselves. I don't offer the same rates B2B, but they invest their own hard-earned money in coaching because they are so hungry for development. And as you rightly say, very often they've already had contact with me. So maybe they were part of a workshop that I did, or maybe they were in a leadership offsite, or they were part of a team, and they've seen transformation happen elsewhere, and they're saying, oh, I want a piece of that.
Cool, that makes sense. And the reason why I was asking you that, I was just thinking in terms of since you want to scale it, I was thinking in terms of the marketing aspect of it. People would still find out about it, either through this podcast, by the way.
Yes,
also,
nice.
Also through you when you're working with an upper leader and you happen to work with their team too, that seems to be also a good icebreaker or door opener, whatever you call it. So that makes sense.
Yes. Do feel free to create me a brilliant marketing plan, Rexhen. Your expertise is more than welcome.
I'd love to work on that. So before we get into more details on marketing, I wanted to slightly move into something which could be related to marketing. We're talking about investments. In your coaching business, what have been some investments that you've made that you feel like actually they were good investments, or maybe investments that you made that weren't that so good investments? What we talked about earlier, you were so the investments have worked out well. That's good. It's great.
Yes. So first of all, I always have a coach. Mm-hmm. So I, like many other coaches, I have spent enormous amounts of money on coaching, on my own development, on supervision. And I think the more that we are coached, the better we become as coaches, the more we learn, and we, continue to evolve. And that makes us great coaches. In terms of from a kind of business owner perspective, shout out to my lovely Jo Gardner, who's my right-hand woman who helps me run my business. And I'm Insights Discovery accredited. And Insights Discovery, it's a psychometric tool. We talk about different preferences in how our brains work. Jo is the kind of the other half to, my brain is all about big picture, storytelling, idea generation. And she's really creative. She's incredible at detail. She's amazing. She has rebranded my whole business. She's helped write my website. She creates incredible materials for me and, keeps me on track and is, probably the one other person in the world that actually really understands what's going on in my business. So I would say if you're looking for, what's a great investment, invest in yourself as a coach, keep developing, but also look for what your less practiced pieces are. I'm not going to use the word weaknesses. What are the gaps that need to be filled, and find someone who's your opposite to fill those gaps.
Cool. That is a great advice when it comes to investment. And even in previous episodes, people who have watched it or listened to the episode will see that a lot of coaches do recommend working with other coaches. And it also goes by logic, because when you think about it, you want other people to invest in your coaching. So it's kind of like you believe in coaching, then you would also be investing in another coach. It's just like a different area of expertise that you're looking to improve. So that is always interesting. Right now, what is a challenge for you that you're trying to solve for next? We talked about marketing too, and your program that you want to scale. What would you say is that one challenge that is holding you back from reaching to that scalability factor?
Because that's new territory for me, and what I'm used to is what we talked about before. I'm used to offering something bespoke for senior women. I'm used to that kind of really clear contract. I get to know someone, I build something for them. And I guess my biggest challenge is that it's new and I don't know what the journey looks like. What I'm doing at the moment is I'm having lots and lots of conversations with people, pitching them the idea, getting their feedback. What would be your, I'm talking to people who hold a checkbook and saying, what would be your, what would make you say yes? What would make you say no? So I guess it's a challenge that I'm in the process of navigating, but it's how do we do it? How do we make it work for people? How do we build something and sell something that is going to change lots and lots of women's lives? Because I really believe in it. But there's a gap between, at the moment, I don't know quite how we're going to get there. And I'm just building that journey. Yeah.
Interesting. So the vision is there, is strong. We believe in it. It's just like the how to getting there. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And we have the what, we have the why. We just need more of the how.
Absolutely. Well, I agree with you. And when it comes to the how, actually what it also comes down to figuring out, it's like the marketing part of it is one, but then you also have to think about the other parts of it. So it's like a whole process. So marketing, having people consistently coming into this new program, and then you would have to think about actually closing these people into your program and then actually delivering them into the program. So it is a full process when you think about it. Yeah. So definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Because we don't just want to sell it. We want it to be amazing. And, I have an amazing guy who's helping me build my own kind of academy. I sent him a recommendation that somebody has just shared with me on LinkedIn, who was part of one of my programs. And she was part of the program 18 months ago. And she's sent me a recommendation literally 2 weeks ago saying that she's still using every single day the stuff that we did on the program. And I said to him, this is our benchmark. This is what we want to do with the scalable program. We want it to be as good as the bespoke program.
That's what success would look like. Yeah.
That's what, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, great. That's what success looks like.
So the final question is, what advice would you like to give to other coaches, leadership coaches who are trying to scale their impact, just like you are? It would be like an advice you'd give to yourself, essentially.
For me, there's a few different things. So if you're really near the beginning of the journey, I go back to that piece that I said earlier around who are the people for whom you can make the biggest difference. Look at those people who you're drawn to and are drawn to you, and you will make transformation for them. I would say start with passion and purpose, because, for me, when I look at what is the difference I want to make in the world, and I'm absolutely passionate about gender equality, I'm passionate about helping women change their lives. And that's the thing that lights my fire, because it can be hard running your own business. It's a lonely experience at times. And so if you find what you're really passionate about and the thing that you want to do in the world, your mission, your purpose, your vision, then it drives you and it energizes you. And it means that you're not selling, or you're helping. And if you look for how can you help, then you're a positive force in the world and people will want to work with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you so much for coming to the podcast today. For anyone who wants to connect with you or find you, they can go into LinkedIn, Sarah Perugia. They'll be able to find you there. There's also the website, Sarah Perugia. And when I say Perugia, it's like the Italian city name. So how do normally people say it in UK or in English?
Do you know what? You've said it brilliantly, which nobody in the UK can do, Rexhen. Normally people in this UK say Perugia. But actually, the way you've said it is much closer to how my dad says it, which is the correct pronunciation. But yeah, Perugia, and people can find me on my website, on LinkedIn. I'm so happy to connect. And on my website, you can book a call with me. Very happy to chat with anyone.
Cool, great. And they can also find your podcast too. I guess it's on the website too, right?
Yes, indeed. And on Spotify and on Apple.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you for coming to the podcast. This was a lovely conversation.
I really enjoyed it, Rexhen. Thank you so much.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.